And we're back to watching this wonderful, bewitchingly clear sunset. For 4 days straight, Aosage Island has been blessed with fine weather, but at Mount Akakura, the snowstorm still raged. There's like 10 Sailor Moon SNES games. What? Okay, how many of them got localized, though? I mean, really. According to the magazine article, the weather won't improve until dawn on the 17th. Then at 6:53 a.m. on the same day, an avalanche will occur at location X. Present time, 4:15 p.m. That time drew nearer every moment. But there was nothing I could do now. The Uni of the shelter cabin had clearly stated that the next transfer would occur tomorrow at 4:48 a.m. I chose to believe him. That meant I had just over 12 hours. In order to rescue the 4 shelter cabin refugees, a space-time transfer was essential. The only thing I could do now was wait. I went back inside. Even now, I couldn't get accustomed to seeing the destroyed state of the living area. But I didn't feel the slightest desire to tidy it up either. Sat down on a ripped-up couch and started thinking about matters at Sphia. After her confession on the hill, Utsumi had quietly returned to her room. She'd taken a sedative and was now sound asleep. Uni was there too, watching over her. Hattori had locked herself in a room and wasn't coming out. She's holding on to the knife that Utsumi had with her, I guess for self-defense, and won't put it down for a moment. I doubted Utsumi had any desire to kill her anymore. And although I insisted upon the fact that Hattori, I was unable to soothe her. She'd already been close to death once. Suppose a reaction like that was unavoidable. Yeah, but to be fair, we're the ones who keep getting stabbed. It's all well and good that Utsumi's given up on trying to kill her, but things between the 4 of us is still very awkward. The hearts of everyone at Sphia, mine included, have darkened. We'd misunderstood one another and began to see suspicious goings-on in every corner. Yes, misunderstood. This is all one big misunderstanding. I'm not the one who killed Inamoto, and Hattori wasn't the one who took Junichi's life. Consequently, Uni had no reason to fear me, and Utsumi's hatred of Hattori had never been anything more than a horrible mistake from the start. So if I tell them what I know, the truth about space-time transfer, would I be able to open the path to reconciliation? But still, no matter how I insisted, I don't think they'd believe me at all. And on the off chance that they actually did believe me, the 3 of them might stop being so paranoid. But I just couldn't get past my lingering distrust. Because someone is definitely after my life, and the culprit is unrelated to space-time transfer. The 2 women still haven't escaped from my suspicion. Of course I trust Utsumi now, but I have no idea what she thought of me before this morning. It's Fuzukage Hattori. Hattori's consciousness isn't in Ibushi Keiko. She merely happened to be on the ill-fated flight Hell 18, and by what you would call the whims of fate, she was unfortunately caught up in the transference phenomenon. In that regard, she's just another unlucky victim in this chain of strife. Of course, there's never been blood on her hands before now, I'd wager. Hattori's consciousness, as far as I can say, is innocent. However, while that may be true, I can't state definitively that she's not the one behind the attempted murders. Her aberrant speech and conduct up to this point has given rise to plenty of suspicion. It's potentially possible that every single killing besides Utsumi's have been the cause of that 3rd personality I keep mentioning. Because it's not just going into our body, Keiko's and myself. Wait, if we discount what happened with the newspaper, I actually am not sure if that personality has ever existed at the shelter cabin. No, they kept mentioning the fits he was having. I don't know. Oh well, let's continue on. I don't know what her motives are, but I can't shake these lingering doubts that she might be capable of it after all. Utsumi Kali. Utsumi tried to kill Hattori, not me. I forgot to do something on break. Give me a sec. There we go. Had to turn on the fan. Utsumi tried to kill Hattori, not me. What if all this time she was putting her plan into practice, she felt I was in the way? Wouldn't that thought of getting rid of all possible obstacles have crossed her mind? I didn't want to suspect her, but I can't deny the possibility she's the culprit. Kusuda Uni. Regarding Uni, I guess I can rule him out. I don't need to explain why. I believe in him. That's enough. Even if I were to go out of my way to find a reason to suspect him, he has no motive, and he's even got an alibi for the incident at the clock tower. I'm sure it's impossible for the culprit to be Uni. Lastly, Inamoto Naoya. The clock tower, the bathtub, my left arm. False for Inamoto to be responsible for all of these. Except, the bathtub was a mistake. But there was one thing he couldn't possibly have done. The situation of DMT and the MAO inhibitor. My body drank that liquid yesterday morning after Inamoto's death. Therefore, in this case, there's no way he could have put a part in it. Even if he was the one who went after me the first 3 times, the riddle of DMT and the MAO inhibitor remains unresolved. Oh, wait. Suddenly I remembered what I heard Yutori say yesterday. And the person who took them is you yourself. That's right, that's it. There were more than these 5 people at Sphia. Fuyikawa Kokoro. She too can be considered one of the people at Sphia. There are limits to the time she can spend here, but it's undeniable that consciousness took control of my body. Who killed Inamoto Naoya? Fuyikawa Kokoro. Who destroyed Living Area? Kokoro again. Who drank DMT and the MAO inhibitor? According to Hattori, Kokoro. Who received the sleeping pills called Zegtamin and it's from Itsumi? Kokoro, of course. Then who wounded my left arm? I don't know. Hattori proposed self-mutilation as the cause, but finally you pushed me off the clock tower. It's not Kokoro. Did she jump off herself? No, it's impossible, as the transference phenomenon hadn't happened yet. Besides, I saw a shadow up on the clock tower, and the same shadow stabbed me in the arm, too. I saw someone clutching a knife in the dark. I don't get it! Who the hell's trying to kill me? I writhed and tore my hair. Some kind of clue. I sat still for a while, surveying the ruined living area. The sofa had been ripped to shreds, stuffing exposed like entrails. The table had been flipped over, the chairs broken, and the computer monitor knocked to the floor. The glass divider between the living area and the dining area had been shattered in tiny pieces. Hmm? Huh? An instant, a spark ignited in my head. That's right. How could I overlook something so simple? I ran past the living area and jumped to the dining area. Without hesitation, I rushed down the stairs, nearly falling over several times. Basement storeroom. There's a south-facing door on the wall down here. The door leading to a small, dimly lit room where Inamoto lived. The door was still open. In a small room enclosed by darkness, I stepped forward as though something was leading me there. January 17th, the 7th day. Oh my. Consciousness. The row of monitors radiated a pale light. I sank in the armchair before the panel and crossed my legs atop the console. Alright, footage of us getting stabbed. Might be handy. Yeah! Guess what? Footage of Inamoto getting stabbed. Also might be handy. There was an image paused on the computer display. Or any footage for that matter. Yeah! The final shot of my body's rampage to the living area on the night of the 15th. The other monitors displayed the current goings-on in each of the other rooms. The other 3 were all in the bedrooms. Yusumi was sitting in a chair, gazing at the photos of her babies. Uni was asleep in his bed. Hattori was crouching in the corner of her room, silently gazing at the floor. All 3 of them seemed perfectly fine. If, you know, a little distressed. I returned my gaze to the display before me. Back to the paused footage. I closed the playback screen and opened the pull-down menu. The list of the files stored in the database appeared. Among them were records of every single event that occurred in Sphia from January 11th to January 16th, 2012. That's right, I was here only for one reason only, check the Vader data. This would happen at Sphia while my consciousness was away from my body. If I looked through all that footage, then I'd discover the answer right away. That's what I thought. And we have a record of all the transfers and when they occurred. I began to pour over the vast amount of data. Although, with that said, I'd never catch up if I played it back in real time. The total length of footage was approximately 100 hours. Why is this a blue thing? The portion analyzed the recording beginning at the moment of my fall in the clock tower on the 11th, past 4 p.m., and ending at the moment of the final transfer on the 15th, 10:53 p.m. The exact aggregate duration turns out to be a little less than 103 hours. Even if examined further, any other data has been deemed insignificant and omitted. Really? Because there's information I would like from before any of this events happened at Sphia. I couldn't help but fast forward through everything that didn't interest me, and eventually my analysis caught up to where I was right now. 10 hours had passed since I settled in this chair. Holy shit! I had a throbbing ache just behind my ears from staring at low resolution footage for such a long time. Let out a big sigh and rubbed the inner corners of my eyes with my fingers. Present time, 2:37 a.m. Date had changed to January 17th. What was Furiko Kokoro's consciousness doing while in my body? How did the other three act while I wasn't there? It'd be fine if I clarified these mysteries to some extent, but there were still many things I didn't know. And he's not going to probably figure out about the other personality in Hattori, because there's no audio on the recordings anyway, so he wouldn't probably make a note that she wasn't speaking. Only 2 hours remain until the next transfer. I extracted the most important scenes and replayed the footage once again. Wednesday, January 17th. Time, 4:15 a.m. This is blue. Why is this blue? Time. The date and time were indicated by a timestamp in the corner of the videos. Oh. Okay. Location. My room. Let me guess. Cameras are set up everywhere in Sphia, so there are many recorded data files that are in the cameras. However, there's neither any need to check all of them nor the time to do so. Basically, I just excluded all the files that appeared in the list of objects to be analyzed. 1 second. Letter R has many significant meanings. I think right now Kokoro is trudging through snow towards supposed supplies. Yep. Some of those might make sense in the Japanese, the blue words, I mean. No, I mean, they make perfect sense. He's just explaining why he's... some extra background information in case people are being particularly anal about some of the details. Tsumi entered, pulling my snow-covered body inside. She removed my coat, which was soaked through and clinging to me. With a bath towel she brought from somewhere, she kindly wiped down my hair and face. She then dragged my body, still unconscious, to bed and laid it down. Took my pulse, checked my pupils, and placed her palm under my brow to check for fever. She covered me with a blanket, then Tsumi left the room. For a while after that, my body continued sleeping without the slightest tremor. 8:02, my room. The room's window began to shake violently as though it was hit by a sudden squall. The tremors began to settle, and at the same time, the body lying on the bed got up. Its face was warped in agony. Tsumi appeared in the room again and gently coaxed my body back to bed. Two of them were having a conversation about something. The recording had no sound, so I don't know what they were talking about. Without saying that the only other person besides Utsumi was me. The body looked like me, but I don't remember talking to Utsumi like this, which meant Kokoro's consciousness had entered my body. That was how the first transfer occurred. The time was 8:02 p.m. Sphia jumped to Mount Akakura of January 11th, 2011. In exchange, a circle with a radius of 110 meters with the shelter cabin at its core arrived at Mount Osuge Island of 2012. At that moment, my consciousness, which remained on Osuge Island, had entered Fuyukawa Kokoro's body. Therefore, the footage showed Sphia after it jumped to Mount Kakura of 2011. That's probably why the window shook just before the transfer. The atmospheric pressure inside Sphia was high, while Mount Kakura was much lower, so the window was hit by an air pressure on both sides. Eventually, the air managed to escape from the institution through a crack somewhere, and the interior equalized the exterior pressure. By the way, there was one other thing that bothered me. If my current reasoning regarding the atmospheric pressure was correct, how could I have overlooked something that big before? I was going to mention the same thing! Even if my consciousness was always at Osuge Island, when I transferred into Kokoro's body or returned to my own, I should have noticed pain in my ears or heard the sound of the draft caused by the escaping air. I don't remember feeling something like that out of place even once. Why was that? Was it because I never paid attention to such trivial changes in chaos that followed their transfer? Something was strange. I suddenly felt a sense of discontent. All kinds of thoughts whirled through my head. Like that, I disinterestedly kept viewing the footage. My body, Kokoro, left the room, and it met Hattori in the dining area and then discovered Uni in the supposedly empty room. My body received a mirror from Uni. It looked in the mirror and then began muttering something. It opened its mouth wide while tossing its head wildly as if screaming. My body began to get angry, building into a rage. Tsumi appeared in the room with a sedative, which she injected into me. Body crumpled in the spot. A mobile container made out of flesh. Uni and Tsumi carried it to my room. 9:08 p.m. My room. Body began to stir as it lay on the bed. Got to its feet and stood in the middle of the room looking around. Began to grope at its body, an expression of relief crossed its face. That's me. The image showed there was me in both body and consciousness. Second transfer. This time was 9:08 p.m. What was about to happen after that had already been carved in my memory. The conversation with Uni, Hattori running down the basement storeroom, me running after her. Everything was recorded just as I remembered it. There was no need to confirm what I already knew. Fast forward through the footage and went on to the next scene. 10:24 p.m. Dining area. 3 cups slipped out of my fingers. They shattered. The sound must have surprised it as my body twitched. It gazed obliviously at the fragments strewn across the floor. Tsumi came up behind me. I turned around. No, that wasn't me. It was Fuyukawa Kokoro in my form. I have no memory of this encounter, so it had to be her. 10:24 p.m. The third transfer occurred. Afterward, my body, Kokoro, exchanged a few words with Utsumi and Uni before heading to its own bathroom. There weren't any cameras in there. It was a bathroom, after all. I don't know what happened inside. There weren't any especially important scenes around here, so I jumped ahead. I didn't have time to inspect everything. However, I couldn't overlook the scene what happened next. 10:45 p.m. Hitori's room. My body received the pills from Utsumi. Hitori was on the bed looking tired. Uni suddenly appeared before the camera. After exchanging a few words, my body held Uni close and left the room with him. 10:48 p.m. My room. My body took the pills and went to the bathroom. Finally. I was entranced by the displays, completely absorbed. When the footage on screen had disappeared from view. Afterward, there was just an empty room. 11:19. My room. Someone's back appeared in the edge of the frame. It was Hitori. Came in the room and suddenly began to act very odd. She ran, but fell down after only 2 or 3 steps, and once she'd righted herself, she took only a few more before falling over backward. After repeating this several times, she planted herself on the floor. Her eyes were trained on the refrigerator. She suddenly clapped her hands together and laughed. Then she stood up, peeled the blanket off my bed, and started swinging around wildly. But her foot got caught, and she fell down again. The momentum caused the blanket to carry her to the floor with it, where it fell covered her face. After struggling underneath it for a bit, she threw her off to the side. What the hell's going on? When she finally turned toward the camera, she was wearing a vacant expression. Her eyes darted around the room. Then she opened her mouth wide as it would go, while curling her hands into a fist. Just like that, she went limp and fell onto the bed. It was the second time I'd seen this footage, and it still left me speechless. What exactly was she trying to do? Her strange movements continued for another 11 minutes. 11:30, my room. Suddenly Hitori's back arched. She collapsed on the floor and her whole body went rigid. For several seconds she laid there completely still, her back still curved. Just as quickly she suddenly sat bolt upright. Clambering across the room, she began crawling, heading for a corner. Pressed her back flat against the wall, arms outstretched, then crouched and wrapped them around her knees. She looked around the room with a frightened expression on her face. I could see her fingers trembling. Deep wrinkles etched themselves into her brow, and her eyes restlessly scanned the room. 3 minutes later, Tori timidly stood up and rushed for the door. She fled the room. For a while after that, all the cameras recorded was an empty room. 11:37, my room. Eventually, my body came out through the bathroom door, walking unsteadily. My entire body was dripping wet. Feeling along the wall to support itself, it shambled forward, leaving puddles of water behind every footstep. I remember taking those uneasy steps. After taking Zegtamin, my control of my body weakened. It meant that at the moment the display was showing a real me. The timing of the transfer was most likely the same as Hitori's, so 11:30 p.m. Then that was the 4th transfer. 2 round trips have occurred. The me in the recording was exhausted, and with the last of my strength somehow made it to bed. I passed out, my eyes snapped shut. After that I slept until 6:30 in the morning. The next video was for the 11th. There was a number of things that had been interest me, but now I'd let them be. I could organize my thoughts on that later. Continue with the files on the 12th. January 12th, Thursday. The most important event occurred on this day, of course, was my arm being stabbed. I concentrated, narrowing my focus, and pressed fast forward. 5:30 p.m. My room. The camera had captured Tsumi's image. The window trembled in strong wind. Tsumi was holding onto my arm. She began conversing with my body. Unease stole over Tsumi's face, and then at that moment, white noise and static began to fill the screen, and the footage of the room began to waver. The wavering increased further until I could no longer make out anything on the screen. The image warped, the picture blurred. I rewound and played the scene again in slow motion and saw my body and Utsumi holding each other crouched on the floor. An earthquake. And as I thought about it, Kokoro had written a message like that to me. An earthquake occurred at Sphia. Because of that, Breaker was tripped and blackout occurred. It's fixed now, though. Just like in her message, the screen suddenly went pitch black. It wasn't just the lights either. A complete blackout. The file itself was empty, with nothing recorded on it. The camera had probably stopped working because of the power failure. A sequence of utter darkness could hardly be called footage, continuing on for several minutes. Eventually, the graining particles on screen began to fire across the display, and as if washed down, the image on the screen became completely clear. The post-blackout Sphia appeared on screen. 7:10 p.m. My room. Lights returned in my body, squinted. Blood was gushing from its left arm. Tsumi was there as well. She took one look at my bleeding arm and fell into obvious dismay. This might go without saying, but the me there moment wasn't me. So what about the backup power generator's facility that Enomoto spoke of? Good question. It was the breaker that was damaged, though. Would the backup power have to go through the breaker as well? The one moving my body was Fukaka Kokoro's consciousness, even during the earthquake. Though with that said, it wasn't as if the image from before and those appearing right now were continuous. I see a shadowy figure in the darkness of the blackout, a knife grasped in its right hand. Going by this, between 5:30 and 7:10, Kokoro and I had switched places with each other twice, one round trip. It reminds me, at what time was my left arm injured anyway? By the time my consciousness returned its field, my arm had already had a deep wound. In other words, the one in control of my body when it was stabbed wasn't me, but Kokoro. Keeping this in mind, it would mean that the attack took place after the power failure, but before the next transfer occurred. However, the blackout had prevented the crucial scene from being recorded. It was the same no matter how many times I tried playing it back. Nothing new jumped at me from the recording. I gave up and closed the files for the 12. Fridays, January 13th, I recall that things were relatively calm on that day. By relatively, I mean compared to the other days. My body didn't experience any threats to its life, nor did anyone attack anyone else. Therefore, there wasn't any need to double-check the files on the 13th. I skipped over that day and moved on the 14th. January 14th, Saturday. That's the day I met Enomoto in Naoya. I listened to him talk about his space-time transfer, and then he nearly killed me. However, I transferred again the moment before it happened, and once I returned, it was Enomoto who lay dead in front of me, not me. Nothing that occurred prior to that moment was very important. So it happened down in the basement storeroom. Has he been taking note about the transfers when he knows they happened, and if they were exactly 33 minutes between when the transfer occurred and him returning to his body? He hasn't. That's what happened down in the basement storeroom. That was the only thing that bothered me. I extracted the scene of my struggle with Enomoto and played it back. 6:11 p.m. Basement storeroom. Darkness, a black screen. Unlike the earthquake several days ago, this time the data itself had been properly recorded. The emergency lights illuminated the area. Within the dimness on screen, I saw two human shadows writhe, and because of that I couldn't tell what was happening. I raised the brightness of the footage and increased the color saturation and tone at the same time, which it raised the contrast considerably. That did it. The contours of the object on the screen became fantastically clear. Only the surfaces that the light remained to hit stood out, but I had no trouble distinguishing the human figures in the image. The display showed Enomoto and me grappling with each other hand in hand. Enomoto was straddling my body, pressing hard on my nose and mouth with both hands. I had no memory of this. Enhance! Yeah, zoom enhance! Hold on, I'll zoom in and enhance. Zoom! That didn't... God damn it, that was the wrong thing. Good job, Haven. That was the completely wrong thing. You're the best, Haven. There! Zoom enhance! Zoom! Okay. I'm done being dumb now. Well, dumber than normal. Get big again. There. Thank you. Don't quote me on that! Out of context! In other words, the transfer already occurred at this time. My body struggled violently, thrashing its arms and legs, and caught Enomoto in the chin with a strong right hook. Enomoto staggered. My body seized that chance to escape Enomoto's hold. After that, a long fight ensued. With Kokoro's conscience controlling it, my body left the building once and re-entered through the window of the room. None of this happened for Kokoro. None of it! Get erect again, you. Damn it. Quoted out of context. Anyway, hate you all. None of this happened for Kokoro. Kokoro never saw Enomoto until he was dead. Till he was dead. So... Excuse me. I rushed over the door and then suddenly looked up as though surprised. It rushed over the door, sorry. Timidly, it left the room, passed through the dining area, and then once again descended the stairs to the basement storeroom. As though he'd been waiting for me, Enomoto's hand shot out and made contact with my shoulder. My body fell. Enomoto sprang after it. His hand still grasped the palely glinting knife. Enomoto inverted the knife and swung it down right at my throat. At that moment, Enomoto disappeared from the screen. For a moment, I didn't know what was happening. I rewound, then played the video back in slow motion. When I did, I saw Hattori tear through the screen with the speed of a gale, taking down Enomoto with a perfectly aimed body blow. I did nothing. Sorry, Shamir. You're with the rest of them. Hate you too. Why did Hattori do that? This wasn't the first time I'd seen this image, but I still couldn't help but stare at it in shock. Kokoro and I had been saved by Hattori. I hadn't heard a peep out of either Kokoro or Hattori to that effect. As I thought that, the events on screen were still rushing by. Are there 6 personalities? I really hope my other theory is correct. And it's just the third personality. I knew she saved you. True love prevails. We don't know who the hell that is! As I thought that, the events on screen were still rushing by. I turned the playback setting to normal speed and fixed my eyes on the screen. Enomoto got to his feet and stared into the darkness. He appeared to be frantically searching for something. Looking closely, I could tell the knife had disappeared from his hand. He must have dropped it the moment he fell. That knife was now in my hand. My left hand. It's the left hand that gripped the knife. Great! Now he's going to further think it was Kokoro. Enomoto shook his head in disbelief as he continued to survey the occluding darkness. On faltering steps, my body rushed forward toward him from behind. It didn't make any attempt to conceal itself, but neither did it scream out or make any other threatening movements. It was almost like a kitten. A kitten that reacted to anything that moved, jumping around innocently and finally pouncing. The sound of footsteps seemed to have finally reached Enomoto's ears, and he suddenly turned around. My body aimed for his chest and rushed forward to cling to it, just like a kitten frolicking playfully. Their two bodies overlapped as they flew through the air, drawing a slow parabola in their fall. Are there any animals near the shelter cabin that I should know about? Because he's doing an awfully good job of describing this thing as an instinctual animal. Third party is a kitten? Potentially? I don't know, I doubt they're being that literal. But still. Right after that, the display went white. The picture had jumped because the brightness was too high. I cleared all the adjustments I made to the footage, and I rewound it a bit and played it back again. Kitten person... The rats! Kano was right again! I really hope it's not the rat. But that would help the instinctual base personality theory. From the ceiling to the dim storeroom. After flickering several times, lights came back on and flooded the room. Uni was the one responsible for that. Lowering his finger to switch, he turned around and gulped. He pressed a hand over his mouth, his eyes as round as saucers, an expression of terror. Following the direction of Uni's stare, I saw Enomoto's bloody corpse crumpled on the floor. It's Kay! Kay's armor's full of kittens! Of course Kay's armor's full of kittens. That explains so much. K is for kitten. Exactly! For folks not aware, K is a character in VLR. Yesterday, Uni had said to me, "This goes way beyond just thinking. I saw it with my own eyes. You were laughing as you stabbed the man over and over. Even you must have known he was already dead. You just kept on stabbing him. You butchered his corpse, acting like it was a game to you, didn't you?" As if to verify Uni's words, the screen all too clearly showed an image of me toying with the corpse. It's laughing, it's true. I'm laughing, it's true. Straddling Enomoto, I slashed him over and over again with the knife I gripped in both hands. Okay, now you're switching pronouns! Digging chunks of flesh from his chest, piercing right through into his belly. As if scribbling randomly on a piece of paper, I ran the knife all over his body. Sounds familiar, don't it? Sounds like what Inabushi Keiko did. At the hospital. Soundlessly, the knife was drawn into a lifeless slab of meat. With a foolish smile of utter ecstasy on my face, I was wholeheartedly enjoying the sensation of the knife sinking into the meat. Enomoto was still, his clouded eyes fixed on the empty air above him. With every thrust of the knife, more blood foamed out of his mouth and nostrils and ran on the floor. I endlessly persisted with this terrible game, doing it over and over and over again. I continued moving my hands across the cold slab of meat, never resting for a moment. No, that's not it. I suddenly shook my own head as I came to my senses. The person being projected there wasn't me. It was Fuyukawa Kokoro. However, after having seen it so plainly, I could no longer think of it as just an illusion. What if the one who killed Enomoto wasn't Kokoro, but actually me? Had I completely lost myself without realizing it, and fallen to such a level of barbarism? In reality, the person there on screen couldn't be anyone but me. Using common sense, the most obvious explanation of this gruesome murder was that I was the culprit. But that's wrong. I unconsciously looked away. This isn't me. It isn't me. It isn't me. I muttered those words again and again, trying to convince myself. By the time I lifted my head back up, the next scene began to unfold. My body got up from Enomoto. I stared at the blood-drenched knife as though it was something mysterious. Right there, next to it, was Hattori. She was crouching in a puddle of blood, splashing around playfully. The blood flew up in splashes and fell back down as red rain. The falling raindrops disappeared back in the puddle, creating ripples before they vanished. As she watched them, Hattori's face broke into a huge, gleeful smile. She was laughing again. Okay. Does this other personality, this third personality of both Hattori and us experience? Because at this point, I think both of us are getting this phenomenon happening. It doesn't happen every single time. What's triggering it? It already exceeded the limits of my understanding. I shuddered violently as though suddenly cold. It was madness. If this wasn't an act committed by madman, then what was it? I couldn't believe that a human was capable of this. The being on screen were just a pair of demons who'd assumed human form and were amusing themselves a little while with this. Couldn't see it any other way. Time 7:17 p.m. Basement storeroom. On screen, I suddenly raised my head and looked around the room. I noticed the knife in my left hand. An expression of shock and deep disturbance came to my face. On top of that, the body of Enomoto lying in front of me had undergone a drastic change. As I saw it, every muscle in my jaw stiffened and began twitching convulsively. I placed my hand against my chest in an attempt to return my breathing normal. Yes, a clear and obvious chance. A transfer. Space-time transfer had occurred. I could clearly remember these events. For a while, the me on screen stood staring at the corpse, immobile as a cast-off shell of my actual self. The corner of the screen contained a digital timestamp. The indicator for seconds was still moving, but besides that, everything was still. And then 7:31 p.m. A black shadow crossed the screen. Determined to catch it and reveal its true identity this time, I tried viewing the footage with another angle. What I saw projected there was Hattori, now dyed a vivid red of fresh blood. She toyed with the knife she held in both hands. She'd stolen it from me. Hattori was facing me and we were having a conversation. Only her lips moved in the silence of the frame.
Hey Sitara, which do you prefer? Which one? I mean, to stab or be stabbed? Which do you prefer?
I couldn't hear her voice, but I remember those words all too well. If I remember correctly, my consciousness should jump to the shelter cabin right after this. And just as I expected, there was a change in the footage. 7:34, basement storeroom. I saw my body react, gaining a quick shiver. Just like it had 17 minutes before, shock and disturbance registered on its face. When I noticed Enomoto's dead body, it covered its mouth with its hand and started fighting back nausea. Something startled it and raised its head. Hattori was standing right before its eyes. Hattori's eyes were blank. She blinked several times, and as though playing dumb. I never noticed that was a switchblade when we saw it on her route, though. I thought that was a kitchen knife. I looked at her own body with the knife in her hands. Confused, Hattori let go of the knife. She was frightened, as if she couldn't understand what she'd just done. The pallor that came over her face spelled it out clearly. She shook her head a number of times as though to deny it. As though begging for help, she reached her hand out to my body and began to draw nearer to it. The one there on the screen right now wasn't the Hattori I knew. The Hattori who spoke those suspicious words while idly toying with the knife, and the Hattori desperately seeking help with a face warped in fear. The two of them were clearly different people. Finally! The shadow of Inubushi Keiko immediately rose in my mind. One is Inubushi and the other is Hattori. Is that how it was? On top of that, the timing of the personality change lined up with that of space-time transfers. It can't be. The suffocating uneasiness overcame me. I'd reached one conclusion, but it was still too soon. There still wasn't enough evidence yet. Just now, Utsumi was joining them on screen, and the scene soon turned into a brawl. Hattori began running amok. My body cried out while it did its best to hold her back. Utsumi brandished the knife, and with the face of a demon, she attacked. Uni had crouched nearby, with blood flowing from a wound in his forehead. I reached my limit. Forcing myself to look straight ahead, I firmly closed the file as if to erase it. The behavior of lunatics who'd cut at their own human hearts would shaken me to my very core. A somber air seemed to surround me. Unable to stand it, I stood up from the console and began walking around the dimly lit room. There was a coffee maker in the corner. Hoping for a change of pace, I swiftly made some coffee, poured it into a cup, and gulped it down. It was completely tasteless to me. But it might have felt that way because the cup was the same one Enomoto had used. Even so, I had somehow managed to calm myself down. I placed the empty cup on the top of the console and pulled up the last of the recordings. The files from January 15th. I'd already seen everything here once, but it was certainly possible I overlooked something. I couldn't leave without making sure. After all, this was the day I drank the DMT and the MAO inhibitor. Sunday, January 15th, 7:43 a.m. Dining area. When I asked her about DMT and MAO inhibitor, Victoria said maybe I'd drunk it myself. And just as she'd said, the recording showed that as well. When my body began to doze off, it wandered in the dining area, rubbing its eyes. Its steps were shaky, like a sleepwalker's. Its body wavering to the left and right, just barely managing to reach the table. There were 2 bottles under the table. The bottles contained DMT and MAO inhibitor. My body picked up the bottles, staring at them with great interest. And then I have no idea what it was thinking, but suddenly drained the contents of both bottles in a few great gulps. Without anyone forcing it or leading it on, my body drank both bottles of medicine on its own without the slightest apparent hesitation. I couldn't think of the action as anything but a gravely foolish snap decision. The effects of the drugs immediately began to show. And just 1 minute after that, my body fell to its knees, then dropped heavily to the floor, its head slowly bowing like an ear of rice. My forehead went to the floor, my arms were thrown out haphazardly to the side. The next transfer probably occurred right after this. There's no mistake. My memory from the 15th began with me lying like this after all. Afterward, trying to get up out of the transfer, still helpless to move, I fell face up there and lay immobile. And the one who nursed me back to health was Itsumi. Itsumi carried me to my room and administered an antidote to counteract the drug. From then until the afternoon, I lay on my own bed, sound asleep. See, that's one of the reasons why I don't think the third personality that's getting inside our body and potentially Hattori's body, or Keiko's body, is some animal or just instinctual monster, instinctual being or something. Because that scene right there, the drinking of that turns into a poison. That's a little too deliberate. And there ends my analysis. There are many mysteries still remaining, but for now let's summarize everything I'd gathered. How did I almost drown in the bathtub? It was my body's fault. My body took the sleeping pills on its own volition and entered the bathroom. Nobody actually plunged my unconscious body into the bathtub. Tori turned out to be responsible for the door slam I heard, but she was unrelated to the incident. She never took a single step in the bathroom. Same goes for everyone else. At the time of the question, only my body was in the room. If I had to accuse myself of trying to drown me, then the only candidate accused someone of trying to drown me, the only candidate was myself. Next, who killed Inamoto? No need to repeat this ad nauseum. Every particular massacre was recorded on video. It was my body. Lastly, why did my body ingest the DMT and MAO inhibitor? No need to explain this either. My body was the culprit once again. Other people had absolutely nothing to do with it. These were the 3 points I proved anew. Proved isn't quite the correct word. I could probably say that I confirmed my speculations. My body was responsible for everything. In a way, I'd almost expected it. There was no cameras set in the rooftop, so I couldn't find anything about the incident in the clock tower. Same could be said about the wound on my left arm. No data was saved during that time. But my own other findings were more than enough. The information I unearthed, I found the answer. So to summarize, the criminal out to kill me is... neither! It's neither of us. Of course, it wasn't Itsumi either, no Hattori, nor Uni, nor even Inamoto. It was someone else. Another unknown personality, Asphia. Yay! He finally came to the same conclusion we did. Traces of their passage exist, at least. Now let's follow the road of my reasoning. Uh-oh, Shamir. First, judging from the records, it goes without saying that Itsumi, Hattori, Uni, and Inamoto are all unrelated events. Next is Kokoro, but I'll rule her off out of the suspect list. Why? Because she has a strong alibi. Especially in the case of Inamoto's murder occurring on the 14th, the times simply don't add up. The times, yes, the times. There's something strange about times displayed in the pictures. Finally, I knew he'd come to this conclusion. By strange, I mean that, generally speaking, the kind of thing happening at the time was ridiculous. Strange time referring to our January 14th. This one, there's too much time. The former is the time my body, possessed by Kokoro, was attacked by Inamoto at the storehouse. On the other hand, the latter is the time I, who had returned to my original body during transfer, discovered Inamoto's corpse. Of course, they aren't the only times that happen to bother me. There are plenty of other spots, but it's not worth listing them all. Let's give another example. Let's go back to January 11th. The following times are also strange. I don't remember. I don't like specific times. This is why I'm bad at history. 908 is when the second transfer occurred, restoring my consciousness to Sphia. More accurate, it's Sphia that returned to Isogi Island. Is instead the time of following transfer. Incidentally, these two instances. And there's something strange about them? Let's pick, for example, the interval between 6:11 and 7:17 on the 14th. Interval of 66 minutes. 66 minutes is specifically time difference. Why didn't I make that specific connection? So there's a third place everything's transferring to this entire time. I was at the shelter cabin then, anxious about my body being controlled by Kokoro. I was worried sick about her, wondering if she'd managed to run away from Inamoto. See, it's strange, weird even. Wasn't I only allowed to stay at the shelter cabin for 33 minutes? Of course, the same goes for Kokoro. She can only stay at Sphia for 33 minutes. In spite of that, the cameras recorded my body moving without my consciousness for a good 66 minutes. Certainly not a problem with the time counter on screen. The records really are 66 minutes long. Major point here is the statement that Kokoro can only stay at Sphia for 33 minutes is irrefutable. We measured it several times, so I have no doubt about this. And now the logo makes sense. Remember 11? It's all multiples of 11. Which means, since Kokoro was already at Sphia at 6:11, her consciousness separated from my body 33 minutes after, at 6:44 at latest. But then from 6:44 to 7:17, who the hell was controlling my body? Let's examine the records once again. 6:44 on the 14th, it shouldn't be the moment Inamoto was swinging the knife aiming at my throat. Right after that, Hattori ran to Inamoto, causing him to drop the knife. Which means that Inamoto murder, as well as the overblown damage to his body, took place sometime between 6:44 and 7:17. Personality in control of my body during this time gap is the culprit. So with that, Fuyukawa Kokoro has a reasonable alibi. She'd only be at Sphia for 33 minutes. Inamoto died after her 33 minutes. Therefore, it's impossible for Kokoro to be a killer. Fuyukawa Kokoro is innocent. Well, then I guess it's time to draw a conclusion. I stated before that there was another unknown personality at Sphia. Needless to say, that was the personality controlling my body during the time gaps. Who is that? The answer is a separate personality born within myself. I always thought that Kokoro and I were the only ones controlling my body. That doesn't seem to be the case. There's someone else within me, someone I don't know. Wait, do we also have DID? Because no, that doesn't work if it's always been 33 minutes. That would be weird. My memory still hasn't returned. If we assume the cause is mental, then it means something's wrong with my mind. Just like Itsumi said, maybe I really do suffer from DID. And while suffering from DID, I was dragged into the transference phenomenon. This I misunderstood. Until now, I was convinced I had taken the role of the victim. But I was wrong. I am the victim, but also the assailant. Unbeknownst to even me. Because of a mental disorder completely unrelated to transference phenomenon, I created another personality than myself. The other personality must have been the culprit. He schemed to injure my body and grotesquely killed Inamoto. The records tell me everything. It's sad, but I have to face up to it. No! No. Bad, Star. Bad. Why go the DID route when you have something that works specifically in a 33-minute gap? Come on. I won't waver anymore. I won't let myself be restrained by feelings and obligations any longer. I closed my eyes, took a heavy breath, and left that musky room. The third area. Next transfer was at 4:48 a.m. Transfers don't exist. Everyone has DID. I still had over 30 minutes left, but I couldn't afford to relax. I didn't know what was going to happen, so I snapped into action. Turning my room at once, I took my coat from the closet and quickly left. The sky was still dark. The clear midwinter sky had a countless number of stars scattered across it. The moon was hanging low in the last phase of the south-southeast direction. It was missing more of its light now, drawing a mere semicircle as if torn in two. A half-moon. The one that's there, yet the one that isn't. I pushed forward in darkness, relying only on the light of the moon and the stars. I was standing at the front gate. On the left was a computer terminal with a lock controlled by a card reader. I took my card from the pocket and slid it through the slot. At least I tried to slide it. However... What? The card wouldn't go in. Looking closely, I saw the card slot frozen over. Damn it, how did it get stuck at a time like this? There hadn't been any snowfall on Isogi Island the past few hours. But what about Mount Kakura? From the magazine article, I knew that Mount Kakura was hit by a blizzard on the 15th. And wasn't Sphia had always been stuck at Isogi Island? Sphia had been exposed to snowstorm through space-time transfer. It's likely that snow had gotten to the reader then and frozen over the cold afterward. Even here on Isogi Island, the weather was fine, but it didn't change the fact the temperature was still low. On top of that, it was right before dawn, the coldest part of the day. warmed my numb fingers with my breath. Turned my coat collar up, shrugged my neck, and shuffled my feet. Smoke like breath straight adrift in the whole cold air. I angrily tried to insert the card again. I tried it over and over, hoping the heat of the friction would melt the ice. I couldn't just give up here. Nothing would begin if I didn't go get out of Sophia's circle. No matter what happened, I had to leave the gate before the next transfer. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to save everyone in the shelter cabin. Shit! Go in, I'm begging you! One last effort, I shoved the card in the slot with all my might. It went in? Only the tip managed to slide in. There was no need for hesitation. Using all my body weight, I forced the card to slide through. Yay! Don't scare me like that. The left and right doors of the gate opened with a thunderous roar. I tried to pull out the card and leave. But, it wouldn't move. The card was stuck, it wouldn't come out. If I didn't remove it, the gate would never close. Jeez. I could use my entire body weight to force it in, but not for pulling it out. My fingertips were slippery from the numbing cold, so I couldn't even get a grip the card properly. And time was cruelly passing by. There's no choice, guess I'll have to leave it. Great, that's gonna end poorly for us. No matter how hard I try, what won't come out, so there's no helping it. Just getting the gate open was good enough. I abandoned the ID card and stepped out into the outside world. That could cause one of two problems. One, let someone out that we don't want out. Two, keep us from coming in as someone comes in and grabs our keycard. Also, are we going to be able to find Yomogi? Find out after a break! So get up, stretch, whatever you need to do, be able to keep watching comfortably. And I will be right back.